the early 1930s, the skies of Europe were alive with transformation. The era of flimsy biplanes, with their exposed cockpits and web of wires, was fading, replaced by sleeker, more powerful monoplanes. Nations across the continent scrambled to modernize their air forces, driven by the hard lessons of the First World War and the growing shadow of new conflicts. Into this dynamic period flew the Potez 540, a French aircraft crafted to serve as a versatile workhorse, a reconnaissance platform, a bomber, and a transport. It was an ambitious design, but one that would soon confront the brutal realities of modern warfare. The Potez 540, with its boxy fuselage and high-mounted wings, was an imposing sight when it first soared on November 14, 1933. Yet, within a few years, Spanish pilots would grimly nickname it the Flying Coffin, a stark testament to its struggles against superior adversaries. If you're curious how an aircraft could shift from cutting edge to outdated so swiftly, well, that's a tale worth exploring, especially since it came with quirks that might make you grateful you weren't strapped into its cockpit. To grasp the Potez 540's story, we must journey back to its origins and trace its path through a world teetering on the edge of war. The tale of the Potez 540 begins in 1932, when the French Air Force issued a demanding specification for a new aircraft. Known as the BCR, short for Bombardement, Chasse, Reconnaissance, this requirement called for a multi-role machine capable of bombing, fighting, and reconnaissance missions. The specifications were formidable. The aircraft needed to carry 1 ton of bombs at a speed of 350 kilometers per hour at 4,000 meters altitude, with a range of 1,300 kilometers. It had to weigh between 5 and 7 tons, accommodate a crew of 4 to 5, and be equipped with machine guns, cameras, and a radio. This was a tall order, and several French manufacturers, including Breguet, Farman, and Bloch, rose to the challenge. The Potez Company, founded by Henry Potez in 1919, took a bold step by funding the project privately. Henry Potez, a seasoned aviation entrepreneur, saw this as an opportunity to cement his company's reputation as a leader in military aircraft design. The task of realizing this vision fell to Louis Caroller, a talented engineer, whose innovative ideas would define the aircraft's distinctive character. Construction of the prototype, initially designated the Potez 54, began on August 25, 1933, at Potez's factory in Méaulte, France. In just under 3 months, on November 14, 1933, test pilot Marcel Hegelin took the aircraft aloft for its maiden flight. The Potez 54 was a high-wing monoplane, a significant departure from the biplanes still prevalent at the time. Its airframe was built around a steel tube frame, covered with a combination of wood, metal, and fabric, a practical compromise to balance strength and weight. Power came from 2 Hispano-Suiza 12 XBRS VE12 engines, each delivering 690 horsepower, mounted in streamlined nacelles under the wings. These nacelles were connected to the fuselage by stub wings, giving the aircraft a unique silhouette. The landing gear was retractable, a forward-thinking feature for the era, though it required manual cranking by the crew. Hope they had strong arms for that job. The prototype also featured 3 defensive turrets, 1 in the nose, 1 dorsal, and a semi-retractable dustbin ventral turret that could be lowered to protect the aircraft's underside. With twin fins and rudders at the tail, the Potez 54 was a daring attempt to meet the Air Force's complex demands. Flight testing, conducted from March 23 to May 5, 1934, revealed both strengths and shortcomings. The aircraft demonstrated respectable speed and maneuverability, but it suffered from vibrations caused by the engines and 2-bladed propellers. The twin-tail design also led to stability issues, prompting a major redesign. Engineers replaced the twin fins with a single fin and rudder, enhancing handling. The propellers were upgraded to 3-bladed variable pitch models, and the dorsal turret's planned 20mm cannon was replaced with a 7.5mm ATMAC 34 machine gun, likely due to the cannon's excessive weight. These modifications transformed the Potez 54 into the Potez 540, and on November 25, 1934, the first production model was delivered to the French Air Force at Villers-Coublay Air Base. The production version featured upgraded engines, Hispano-Suiza 12H and 12X Juniors, each providing 790 horsepower with counter-rotating propellers to reduce torque. Hopefully, the beam counters didn't flinch at the cost of those extra propeller blades, because they made a real difference in flight. The French Air Force ordered 192 Potez 540s, produced between 1935 and 1937. These aircraft equipped several reconnaissance groups, including Groupement de Reconnaissance 1/54 at Tours, Groupement de Reconnaissance 1/33 at Nancy, and Groupement de Reconnaissance 1/55 at Lyon. The Potez 540 was adapted into several variants to meet diverse needs. The Potez 541, powered by Gnome et Rhone 14K DRS, radial engines of 860 horsepower, was a single experimental model. The Potez 542, fitted with Lorraine Petrol 12 HDRS HERS engines of 720 horsepower, saw 66 units built, primarily for France and Spain. The Potez 543, based on the 541, was produced in small numbers for Romania, with 8 delivered between 1936 and 1939. The Potez 544, equipped with Hispano-Suiza 12 YBR's engines, was used for reconnaissance missions over Germany's Siegfried Line and saw limited service with Spanish Republican forces. Each variant aimed to address specific operational requirements, but the core design remained a product of its era, caught between innovation and limitation. The Potez 540's design was a blend of progressive ideas and practical compromises. Its airframe, measuring 16.2 meters in length, had a wingspan of 22.1 meters and stood 3.88 meters tall. The wing area was 76 square meters, providing substantial lift for its rolls. With an empty weight of 3,785 kilograms and a gross weight of 5,950 kilograms, it was relatively light for a multi-role aircraft. The steel tube frame, covered with wood, metal, and fabric, was sturdy yet susceptible to damage, a weakness that would prove critical in combat. The Hispano-Suiza 12 ZIRS engines, each producing 691 horsepower, drove 3-bladed Retier propellers, giving the aircraft a maximum speed of 310 kilometers per hour at 3,962 meters. Its range was 1,250 kilometers, and it could climb to a service ceiling of 10,000 meters. Solid figures for 1934, but soon surpassed by newer designs. Hopefully, the crew enjoyed the view from that height, because spotting trouble from afar was about to become a necessity. Defensively, the Potez 540 relied on 3 7.5mm Mach 34 machine guns, one in each turret. The nose turret, manned by a gunner, provided forward and lateral coverage. The dorsal turret, positioned atop the fuselage, guarded above and behind. The ventral turret, a semi-retractable dustbin design, could be lowered to protect against attacks from below, though cranking it into position was a workout for the gunner. For bombing missions, the aircraft could carry up to 10 55-kilogram bombs or 4 225-kilogram bombs, stored in internal bays or on external racks under the stub wings. The crew, typically 4 to 5 for reconnaissance or bombing, included a pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, radio operator, and gunner. In transport configuration, it could carry up to 7 passengers, with seats squeezed into the fuselage, comfortable enough unless you were next to the poor soul wrestling with the ventral turret's crank. The cockpit featured large windows for good visibility, and dual controls allowed the co-pilot to take over if needed. The retractable landing gear, while advanced, required manual operation, adding to the crew's workload. Compared to contemporaries like the German Dornier Do-17, the Potez 540 was slower and less agile, a gap that widened as aviation technology progressed. The Potez 540's combat debut came in 1936 during the Spanish Civil War, a brutal conflict that served as a proving ground for new aircraft and tactics. The Spanish Republican government, desperate for modern equipment, acquired 18 to 20 Potez aircraft, including 6 Potez 540s, 8 Potez 542s, and 1 Potez 544. These were delivered to Toulouse, France, by French pilots and then flown to Spain by pilots of Le PAC, the Spanish Republican airline, and French volunteers. The aircraft were organized into the Escuadra España, a squadron led by the French writer André Malraux, whose experiences would later inspire his novel and film, L'Espoir. The Potez 540 saw action in August 1936, notably in a bombing raid on General Francisco Franco's headquarters in Seville on October 27. However, against modern German and Italian aircraft, like the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and Fiat CR32, the Potez 540 was hopelessly outmatched. Its top speed of 190 miles per hour was no match for the faster, more maneuverable fighters, and its light machine guns struggled to fend off attacks. Spanish Republican pilots, facing heavy losses, called it ataúd volante, or flying coffin, a grim reflection of its vulnerability. One pilot reportedly said, "Flying the Potez 540 into combat felt like signing your own death warrant, not exactly a morale booster." The lessons from Spain were clear. The Potez 540's mixed construction made it fragile under fire, and its defensive armament was inadequate against modern fighters. By 1937, the French Air Force began phasing it out of frontline roles. By January 1, 1938, 182 Potez 540s and 542s equipped units, like the 36th, 38th, 51st, 52nd, 54th, and 55th Escadres, as well as Groupement Autonome de Reconnaissance 512 and Groupement Area de Observation 1/506. Recognizing its obsolescence, the French reassigned it to transport and training duties. 7 aircraft were converted into VIP transports, stripped of armament, and fitted with civilian registrations for the Escadrille Ministérielle at Villacoublay, used for government officials. 1, registered as FPEU, was modified with a luxurious interior, including banquettes and a lavatory for the Minister of the Navy. By September 1939, when World War II began, about 100 Potez 540s remained in service, mostly in North Africa, where they served in transport and paratrooper training roles. They saw no combat during the Battle of France in 1940, as their vulnerabilities were too great. After France's surrender in June 1940, 71 Potez 540s served under the Vichy French government, primarily in North Africa. 6 Potez 542s were deployed in Indochina during the Thai-Franco War from late 1940 to early 1941, conducting reconnaissance and light bombing. Some aircraft were captured by Italian forces and used by the Regia Aeronautica, while 2 supported Iraqi rebels during the Anglo-Iraqi War in 1941. A tragic incident occurred on June 30, 1940, when a Potez 540 crashed after takeoff from Fez Airport in Morocco, killing all 8 aboard, including pilot Sergeant Louis Ledigabel and Corporal Émile Arthur Renault. By 1943, most Potez 540s had been retired or destroyed, their wooden frames succumbing to wear and combat. In North Africa, the USAAF's 90th Photographic Reconnaissance Wing briefly used a Potez 540 as a flying photo laboratory in early 1943, a rare instance of Allied use. The aircraft's final missions were quiet, ferrying supplies or personnel in remote colonies, far from the glory it was designed to achieve. The Potez 540's legacy is one of ambition outpaced by rapid technological change. It was a bold attempt to create a multi-role aircraft, but its mixed construction and limited performance couldn't keep up with the all-metal monoplanes of the late 1930s. Its struggles in Spain exposed the gap between French aviation and its rivals, prompting a shift toward more modern designs like the Potez 637 and Breguet 691. Yet, its versatility in secondary roles, transport, training, and colonial service demonstrated its adaptability. The aircraft's story is preserved in historical records and cultural works, notably André Malraux's L'Espoir, which captured the human drama of its Spanish service. No Potez 540s survive today, but scale models and museum exhibits keep its memory alive. If you're ever browsing a model shop, you might spot a 1/72nd scale Potez 540 kit, proof that even the flying coffin has a place in aviation's heart. The Potez 540 reminds us how swiftly innovation can reshape the skies and how even imperfect designs contribute to the evolution of flight.